You are the Navigator.
Hello and welcome to episode 95 of the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Mark. Right, let's just stop, okay? I know we're at the intro, but let's just stop because today's episode is huge for me. Absolutely huge. Anyone that's ever listened to Skip to the End or previous Mark and Me episodes knows just how much I love the 80s. I am obsessed with all 80s films. It's my favourite era of films. And to know that I'm joined by Joey Cramer from oh my god, I'm going to say it out loud, from Flight the Navigator is a dream come true. It's a guest I've wanted for many, many years. And now, as I sit here now for episode 95, it's finally happened. Today I'm joined by Joey Cramer. My God, I've wanted to say that for so long. I can't wait to share this interview with you. Flight the Navigator is a masterpiece. It's one of my most watched films growing up as a kid, and I revisit it every year. I think it is absolutely awesome. I put it up there with The Goonies, Gremlins, Stand By Me, The Lost Boys. It's an 80s classic. And I can't believe that today's episode is all about it. It's going to be absolutely awesome. Now, I've been podcasting with Mark and Me for over 3 years. I'm on episode 95, and I can safely say, and I've said it to most of my friends and loved ones, this is my favourite episode that I've recorded to date. This interview gets quite heavy. If anyone's done any research, they'll know the background of Joey. He's had a really rough time. He's been in prison, and we get to talk all about it. We don't kind of avoid the elephant in the room, and we discuss it in detail. The conversation flows. It's a really, really upbeat, positive interview. And I mean it. It's the best thing I've ever recorded, and I can't wait to share it with you. But just before we get to that moment, I like to touch base and talk about my previous episode. And I was joined by the director and actor, Ruben Pla. A great guy, a legend in horror, and such a huge personality. His interview I saw was received so well by you guys out there. People were saying just how much fun he was, his energy, and a guest I want back on. So I can't wait to get him back on in the future. But let's do it now. This is the moment. This is the interview. I'm not building it up to fail. This is the reason I podcast. This is my moment, and I can't wait to share it with you. Here's me and Joey Cramer talking all things Flight of the Navigator. So, Joey, thanks for joining me today on the Mark and Me podcast.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
What I want to do is take it right back to the very start, back in the 80s when you were a child. And when you were at school, did you know at that point what you wanted to do with your life, or were you just kind of getting involved in various subjects and seeing where it would take you?
Well, I actually got, I mean, growing up, even when I was real little, 5 and 6 and stuff, I was raised on musicals. I was raised on going to the theater and movies and CBC music and all this stuff. So I always had a pretty strong artsy background from my mom. And I always loved, like, you know, one of my favorite movies was Grease. And so I loved acting out the parts. And even Oliver, I wanted to be the Artful Dodger so bad when I was a kid. I just, so, you know, I would sing all the songs and act out the parts and play them. And then my mom worked at the theater department at the university here in Vancouver. And when I was about 8 years old, one of her boss was directing a university, you know, play of South Pacific, the old musical. So, and he needed a little boy to be one of the sons of the soldier who was, living in Tunisia or wherever where it was based there. So and so I kind of fell into acting at a really young age, but I just had a knack for it. I was a bit of a ham. I could memorize stuff. I could, sing and have fun because that's just what I did naturally. So yeah, so I did this play when I was 8 and loved it, and then my mom got some content, like some people were like, you got to get that kid into acting. And so I got an agent and started doing commercials and pretty much got commercials right away. And then through my younger years, 8 and 9, and did some extra work and stuff. And then when I was 10, I got my first feature film, which was Runaway, with Tom Selleck, and Gene Simmons from Kiss was the bad guy, and old Michael Crichton film.
Yeah, I know, and
So
that's crazy that the fact that your first debut was directed by the guy that wrote Jurassic Park. That's pretty awesome.
yeah, and I didn't quite realize the magnitude at the time. He was still kind of up and coming then, right?
Yeah.
And it turned out to be not one of his bigger projects. It didn't do too well, box office wise and stuff. But still, I remember working with him, and such an amazing, kind man, and great director, and I had so much fun on that. So I mean, as far as what I wanted to do in school and how it came about, that's kind of what happened. And before I knew it, after Runaway, then I went pretty much straight on to Clan of the Cave Bear, and then I-Man, which was the TV Disney movie, and A Murder, She Wrote. So it just really snowballed from there once I had that first part. And so from 8 to I guess about 13, 14, after I finished Navigator, I did one more film, Stone Fox, and actually a CBC thing. So I was just immersed in film and TV, and that's kind of it's just what I did.
I mean,
And
it's a really young age to be getting involved. And when you look at other young actors like Macaulay Culkin and Corey Feldman and all these young actors that got into these classic '80s films, did you kind of understand at that age when you're on set with one of the members of the band Kiss? Like that must be. I suppose at that age you're not really aware of this absolute legend. Like Kiss are iconic now as one of the biggest rock and roll bands of all time.
absolutely, I know for myself, I was a Kiss fan, right, growing up.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, wow, and I loved Magnum PI as well. So I was like, wow, I'm in a movie with Magnum PI and Gene Simmons, like I was it was like a dream come true. Now, did I really grasp the magnitude of that, and the fame aspect of being in movies and things like that? Not really. My mom kept it really down to earth for me, and I always just kind of did it because I loved it, and it was fun, and it was an experience, and we never set out to make me a star or anything like that. It never set out to make it as a career, but it just kind of happened that way. And yeah, it was fun. It was I mean, I wouldn't take it back for anything, even though it was tough for later in life. It was, adjusting to normal life and things, and fitting in after being a child star and stuff.
So when we look at like 1986, you just mentioned then obviously Clan of the Cave Bear, I-Man for Disney, and Flight the Navigator. At this point, are your family supporting you, knowing that you're not going to be able to do your school, you're not going to be doing your education, and it's kind of a place where it's probably all or nothing in the acting world for you?
Well, at that time, I mean, I still did things for school. In those younger years, school isn't maybe quite as intense because it's still elementary school,
Yeah.
and so I remember having to do, I would do journals and talking about my day on set, and things like that, or little reports and stuff, just to, I guess, make sure that I was reading and writing and expressing and doing something as far as keeping up with schoolwork. And and so my mom fully supported me as long as it was something that I wanted to do, which I did. And again, she was never a stage mom. There was never any pressure when I went to auditions or anything like that. It was hey, go and have fun and see what happens, right? And instead of there was never any stresses or anything like that. So I always completely enjoyed myself, and I think that's part of the reason why I had a success was I would come into auditions with, skinned knees and dirty clothes from the playground, right? And other kids would be done up in suit and tie or whatever, for just for example. But I did it because I loved it, and it was fun, and it was a great experience.
So you said at this age you had an agent. Is that how some of the work came about, that you got involved in obviously one of the biggest TV shows back in the 80s, Murder, She Wrote?
Yes. So after, yeah, I got connected with a man named Bruce Ward. He was with Act 4 agency years ago, and then 21st Century Artists. And he mostly did adult actors, but he had a couple of kids, and I was one of them. And we just, yeah, we really clicked. He was a great man, super, I mean, even though I couldn't really, again, fathom exactly what was going on in hindsight and looking back, and knowing he always had my best interests in mind. He was always very supportive. It wasn't like, oh, let's utilize this kid and make a bunch of money or whatever. It was a real, I think I was very fortunate to be involved with people who did it for the love of the craft, and he always wanted the best for me. So yeah, once things started rolling, then it was nice because I was able to just completely trust him, and he would bring me scripts, and we would chat about them and what are you interested in, and then he would go out and make it happen and work the deal part. But I never really, I didn't really pay attention to any of that until, years later.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So let's talk obviously Flight of the Navigator. People will be listening to the podcast now. It's up there with the Goonies and Gremlins and Lost Boys as an 80s classic. It really is an absolute masterpiece for the 80s. I absolutely loved it. I still watch it now and I don't think it looks dated. How did this come about? I want to know about your audition and the first time you heard about it. That's what I just want to get inside your head and hear about these stories.
Absolutely. I mean, first off, like, how grateful and what a privilege to be part of an 80s classic like that. Again, like, I, we didn't realize quite what it was going to be at the time, but there were all the CGI and the animation and the things that they put into that were some of the first times they did that. Jeff Kleiser, who's Randall Kleiser, the director's brother, he did all the computer work and stuff, and so it was, it was amazing. I remember, so I don't remember my first audition specifically, but I do remember the callback and the screen test, where they flew me down to California, and I met with Randall, and we did this scene where I was in the spaceship, and I'm underwater, right? And I'm like, does this thing leak? And he's like, I don't know, you leak, remember, Navigator? And and, and I just I don't know. Even then, I was just immersed in this world. I just had a so it was pretty incredible, and I loved the script. I mean, super fun. I it actually had a completely different ending, which was cool. Some people know and some people don't. I've had some fans reach out, oh, I've got an original script, and because there was a whole different ending that was quite different. But it was, yeah, it just, fascinating and super fun for a kid to be, taken by a spaceship and a UFO and all that. So, yeah, it just, once I got the part and then really started looking into the script and stuff, and I really connected with Randall right away. And so it turned out really well and
I mean,
super fun.
it's a big leading role, and obviously from your previous work, it was quite a step to then be the main focus of the whole film. Were you really scared and nervous, or were you just kind of at an age where you were just ambitious and just excited to be on set and, being let loose with this incredible craft design and all these big budget and all the big producers and everything?
Right. Well, I think that yeah, it was pretty amazing for my first top billing feature role, because I had just been principals and stuff up until then. Um, I think as a kid, I didn't maybe quite grasp the magnitude of it. I do remember, a few months into filming, because I'd never really filmed anything that long, that extensive.
Yeah.
I'd had smaller parts, so I wasn't away from home for nearly as long and things like that. But by then, I had been on set quite a bit. I loved it. It was fun. I mean, you get to go into these worlds. I mean, in Clan of the Cave Bear, I was dressed up in makeup for 3.5 hours, but I don't remember anything bad about it. I loved it, even though it was, you think about makeup for 3.5 hours, it's, trying, but
Yeah.
it was wonderful. And when you're a kid, it's like, all I remember was, oh wow, there's a truck where I can get anything I want to eat in the morning and stuff, right? Catering, right, and little snack tables and things like that. So it's funny, when we're kids, we're so in the present that I don't think we think about the thing as a whole. So for me, it was like day to day, and then, yeah, as I was kind of alluding to later, a few months into it, I started to get homesick and stuff, and just kind of miss being a normal kid again. But I was I was having so much fun, and it was great, and actually it was kind of cool, because Disney ended up flying a friend of mine and his dad out to come and visit me for a couple weeks,
Oh,
because
that's awesome.
it had been so long, so that I could have some playtime and friends and stuff, because I was pretty much the only kid on set.
Yeah.
So there was a few others around, but that was really nice, and really made a huge difference. So yeah.
And then when the film was obviously finished and you got to sit there with your family and watch it for the first time with all the CGI added and all this new technology at the time, you know, what was it like looking it back and seeing Scud's Bucket and the spacecraft and everything in its glory and it actually all coming together?
Well, I mean, the whole, like, the premieres and stuff. We did one premiere in LA and one in New York, and they were. I mean, it was pretty much a whirlwind for me, because there was lots of autograph signing and lots of crowd, and hype. So I remember, I actually don't like I remember watching the movie more later, in my later years after. I don't even think I remember the very first time that I saw it in a theater, at the premiere, because everything was just so exciting and new and stuff. But I do remember later watching it with my friends, and just being I it was almost like I wasn't watching myself. I was just watching a movie, because the CGI and stuff was so great. The storyline, the heart of it, and everything. Like, it was so much. It was a great film, and I mean, if I do say so myself, like, it was, and even today, when I watched it a little while back with some kids from a young acting class, and so they watched the movie, and then we chatted after about being a child actor and stuff, which was really amazing. And I just sat there and watched it, and was just drawn into this world of David and his adventure, and Max and the creatures, and everything. So it was. I think I was, yeah, again, really lucky to be part of such a cool film, because, great memories.
And what do you think about all the rumors that fly around? I think it was Neil Blomkamp or someone was mentioned as being the director of a remake. Do you think it would work now as a remake, where every other film that's Hollywood can get their hands on, they try and do a new take on it? Do you think it would be right to do that, or do you think, like the Goonies and some of the classics, they should just be left alone?
Well, yeah, let's see. I was approached some years back, actually. It was, at that time, it was Brad Copeland from Arrested Development. He
Yeah.
was going to maybe be doing it, and he contacted me, and maybe to have me do a cameo as, like, a town sheriff and stuff. And gave me a little bit of a premise of the outline of the movie, and it sounded a lot different. It was like definitely going to be a reboot.
Right.
I think that it's. As far as I remember, and I remember reading a lot of stuff when they were talking about these reboots, was that there was a lot of fan um, response saying, no, just leave it, don't ruin
Yeah.
our favorite movie, kind of thing. And the fact that you had mentioned, and I've had other people say that even today they can show it to their kids and it still holds up.
Yeah.
As far as storyline and the and the graphics and stuff, and even though they're puppets, it's like you get drawn into this world, and it's a great movie. So I had a cool, like, I always thought it would be cool to do something like a sequel
Yeah.
where I David had grown up, and now had a kid, and somehow the kid ended up going on an adventure in the spaceship. Maybe Max comes back, or we had a couple of ideas actually, and me and the original writer, Mark Baker, were shooting around some ideas because about timelines and what would work and things like that. And I think that that's something that could maybe work, is more like a sequel. As far as remaking Navigator, I don't think that it would it would have to have as much heart as it did the first time. And so, but I think it could be cool to do a sequel. I had a few pretty cool ideas for that, and good messages, and still have the heart, and have the connection between a father and son or daughter who went on this adventure, and maybe David grows up and ends up marrying Carolyn McAdams from NASA, and,
That would be
so
incredible.
right. I think something like that could be really fun, and who
Well,
knows.
as we're sitting here right now, we're just about to see Bill and Ted 3, and it's been obviously many, many years, and it looks by the trailer that they've still got that magic that we had. And I think
Right.
because it looks like, I think Alex Winter's character is going to have a daughter. I'm not completely sure, but I think it's going to be passed down the kind of generation, and I think that's what could
Oh,
work for Flight of the Navigator. I can imagine you being there with your son, and he's like, "What's this in the garage or something?" It's like, "Oh, it's just when I was a kid, it's not important." And then he, with his mates, does like a Stranger Things sort of thing, like gets involved and starts trying to
yeah, yeah.
go on a mission, and before you know it,
Absolutely.
you know,
Yeah, my thing, it's like part of me, I didn't want to, like, give it away, but at the same time I love sharing the idea. But it's that that David, he's figured out a way to harness the information in his brain, and all of the tech, and the whatever schematics of the spaceship, and work for NASA, and all this stuff, and secretly building a ship. And when he finishes
oh,
building, right, he tries to activate it and get it to go on an adventure, but he's grown up now, and so the ship just stays as the mechanical kind of eye, and it won't be fun. It won't turn into the Pee Wee Herman voice and be a kid again, because he's grown up and he's too serious. But then his son or daughter, I thought it would be cool to do a little girl, fun,
that'd be
right, and
awesome.
have her
Yeah.
go on an adventure, and have so she stumbles upon it, and it does the brain zap on her, and then comes to life, right, as this, and then they go on this
God,
adventure, right?
we need to
And
make this now.
I know that I really think that would be super fun. And so, I've I mean, I'm just starting to get back into acting. I've done a few short films, and I just and looking for an agent and things like that. So, and I really feel it's something that, no matter how long it's been, it's always what's given me joy and love, is just acting and film and stuff. So I'm like, hey, it's never too late to live your dreams. And so we'll see what happens. And I've met a lot of amazing filmmakers who got into film because of that movie and stuff, and are now making films. And so
There's an
we've
audience there. There's definitely people I know
yeah,
would love. And in my head, I'm like, Return of the Navigator or something like that. Like,
yeah,
oh god, people just would be there. All the adults would be there with their kids. Kids would love it, and then all the adults and the mums and dads would have been like, I remember the original.
yeah, yeah. And I think it could, something like that could be really cool. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
And at the moment, I believe we're at the stage soon where we might get some news or an update on your documentary after the Navigator. This has
Yes,
been something you've
life.
been working on, is it, for a couple of years now?
That's right. Yeah, we've so it's Life After the Navigator, and Lisa and Ash, they did Life After Flash, and then contacted me, um, and we've been filming since early 2018. So
Wow.
off and on a few times, and it's been an amazing experience. I again have felt so grateful and such a gift that these amazing filmmakers wanted to do something with me. I mean, um, and and it's been a real, I think, catalyst to me being able to follow, like, to really change my life after all of my hardships and the troubles and things like that, and going to jail and all that stuff and everything. And so being able to tell my side of the story and um, show those things, as well as celebrating the film and why people love it, why people still love it. I think it's going to be really special, and it looks like November this year we
Oh,
might, we
nice.
might be releasing it. We just found out, so yeah. I mean, you can follow, the Life After the Navigator Facebook page. There's always updates and stuff there, and
Yeah.
then of course, where you connected with me at the Joey Cramer,
Yep.
a David Scott Freeman. So I post stuff there as well, and yeah, it's pretty neat. I mean, because of the whole COVID thing, we're a little challenged as far as screenings, like having actual live in person screenings. But we're trying to figure out how we can do that and see. But yeah,
Fingers
it's
crossed
definitely
in the next couple of months we're going to start seeing some, maybe a trailer and some news about how we can see it. It might be like kind of video on demand or a streaming service or something.
most definitely, yeah. If you follow those two pages or what, and just keep an eye out, Life After the Navigator,
Yeah.
it'll start coming up. I mean, there is already a couple little teaser trailers, but I think it's going to get more and more yeah, more polished, because a lot of, right, she's getting graphics done, and the soundtrack, and everything is coming together. So I'm really excited. I actually I think I get to preview a little, like the first draft, so to speak, the
Awesome.
first edit pretty soon. So I'm pretty excited about that, and really looking forward to seeing the way that it's come together. Because again, it was a labor of love, and it was really eye opening. It was also very cathartic and very therapeutic for myself to be able to talk about my life completely openly and freely, and uh, and just kind of share myself, because again, through all of the ups and downs and that I've been through, I've found that being completely honest with myself and people around me, and just open about everything that I've been through, is the best way to move through that and past it, and utilize those dark times as a positive. I
Yeah.
think that and everybody, whether it's addiction or work or stress or what, has something going on that they struggle with, and so we can all relate to each other, and overcoming those obstacles, and that's it makes a great story, and it hopefully inspires people as well, and that anyone from any walk of life or any challenge can overcome, and just and get back to themselves, or just live their dreams, right? Because it's never too late to be who you might have been, and really
Cool.
just enjoy it. Yeah.
And it's really good to see you looking so healthy and, so positive. I mean, I don't want to touch base on it much, but the last few years you've obviously been in the headlines for narcotics abuse and robbery and stuff like this. But was it the counselling, you think, that really kind of put you back on the right road? Is that what's had the biggest impact? And people surround you? Have you made sure that you're surrounded by the family and the loved ones that you need as a support network, instead of getting involved with the wrong people?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I went through a really great program, a therapeutic community thing, and I think one of the hugest catalysts for me and motivations was I had a little girl, and so I really wanted to be I wanted to be a father, and I wanted to be healthy and strong and all that stuff, so that I could be there for her when the time was right. And then I just I was completely willing and open to lay myself right out. Like sometimes through all of the counseling and the meetings and experiences with other addicts or other criminals and things like that, like it can be hard to let go of those old ways of thinking and believing. You get set in a rut, in a path, in a way of life, and it's scary to change. It's scary to do something different. And I just completely knew in my heart that I wanted more, and that so once I started, it was like no turning back. I really committed, and I still commit, every day. And I do my kind of morning mantras and positive affirmations, and I journal, gratitude journals, and things that meditation and all that stuff, and really just kind of take care of myself. And I've also been completely honest with my loved ones and my friends around me, so that then there's that support there. Yeah.
And how mentally do you keep yourself now in a place where you know you won't go back to the dark place? Do you just know that it's not just you now, it's your daughter? Is that the kind of rock you've got in place?
The biggest, I mean, she is definitely a huge part. I will take credit and admit that it's really my own spirit and heart that I love today, and that I really embrace. The biggest part for me was unearthing and letting go of all of the years of guilt and shame and right, regrets that
Yeah.
I had. So I mean, and it started young. I mean, again, we don't need to go on about it, but and it's stuff that'll come out in the documentary. But I had these, unhealthy core beliefs kind of instilled in me from a young age. After I got out of film, I was bullied. I didn't fit in, and so I just tried to fit in. So all that stuff kind of carried to my later life, and so being willing for me to go through that and express those deepest, darkest fears and regrets and shame and guilt and stuff like that, and let it go, and forgive myself and forgive other people who've hurt me, and ask for forgiveness, or work through things with people I'd wronged and things. That was the hugest part for me. So like for me, most of my drug abuse went to just trying to numb the feelings and not feel anything, because I hurt so bad inside. But once I had let that stuff go, and I didn't have anything to mask or to cover up anymore, so I don't have those same cravings. I enjoy life today, and I love it. So there's no reason to go back to that, right?
It's good. It's,
That's
it's amazing
yeah.
to know that that feeling isn't there where you need to numb anything anymore.
No, no. And I've done a lot of work and learned a lot of ways of coping and dealing, that if something emotional comes up, I mean, I think of some of the, what would I do in the worst case scenario, when my mom passes away, or if something happened to my daughter, or what, like, but I've learned that even in those darkest moments, it's how we respond to the experience, that makes it either a positive or a negative experience in the long run, right?
Yeah.
Even some of the worst, darkest times that you can think of, if you can, if I can respond to it in a positive way, if I can learn from it, if I can grow, and instead of instead of getting angry or fearful or hating life because of this, bad thing that's happened, then it works out, and it turns it into a positive experience, as painful and as traumatic or as hard as something, life-changing and hard would be. So, if that makes sense.
I hope there's a lot of people that are listening right now that can take something from this, and if they're unable to let go or numb something, they can be put on the right track to be able to do what you did, because it's make or break, it's sink or swim, and so many people sink, so many people aren't able to let go, and it's so nice to see you and hear you and be here now knowing that you're one of the people that turned it around.
Thank you, and I really hope so. That's something that I truly believe will come of the documentary, and also just even me being able to talk to you now openly and share. And I hope that if there's anybody listening that is going through anything, any sort of struggles, that they realize, as I did, that underneath all of the heartache or the pain or the whatever, challenges and whatever struggles that we have, on top of everything, underneath that, we're human, and we are born out of love and joy, and we deserve to feel that. It takes some practice, like unlearning those negative thought patterns that can come
Yeah.
into the head, right? I know we can. For me, I would wake up, I'm such an idiot, I'm so, and I would have this negative self-talk all the time. And that was, again, one of the hugest turning points in my life, was changing that self-talk. I would take a dry erase marker and write wonderful things on the mirror, so that I would see them and read them, even if they felt awkward and stuff. I would do that, and just really risk, if you have, if you're going through something and you have somebody that you love and that you trust, risk being open with them and telling them your biggest fears or your darkest secrets, and so that you can get them out. And I guarantee, I mean, at least 99% of the time, they will be open to supporting and stuff like that. And really, there were things I didn't want to tell my mom or share with her, but once I did, it released all of the old pain that went along with it, right? It opened these doors, and it was amazing.
And I'm sure it's a huge weight lifted that you've carried around with you for years, where your neck feels sore, your back isn't right, you're never really yourself, and now you can just let go and think, well, even though some of it isn't great to admit, it's out there now, and I'm not keeping it just to myself, and it's a problem that has been shared and hopefully can now fade away.
Absolutely, absolutely. When we first released the little teaser trailer, there's a clip in there about me going to the drugstore to get my methadone in the morning, and I had a few friends who are also in recovery, and they were like, "Dude, you just told the world that you used to, that you go for methadone, and that you're an addict." And I was like, "Well, yeah, but now I have nothing to hide. Now there's," I was like,
True.
and also people can then have the choice of whether they want to connect with me, knowing all this stuff. It's like, I am the person that I am today. I know I'm a good person. I know that I've done bad things and things I regret, but I can't change any of those things. All I can do is do better from today, and that's the lesson, and that's what I've learned. And so by me opening up like that, it's helped other people, and they've been like, "Oh wow, okay, yeah, and again, that's, I think, what's so great about just being people, and human and stuff, is sharing connection, and relating to people, and then helping each other through stuff, even at long distances, or even if I've never met someone, but we share a story or connect through Facebook, or through a podcast, or an interview, or anything, would just is amazing. You can affect people's lives, because I know I've watched interviews of some of my favorite actors or musicians, and they've said things that have struck home with me and have helped me overcome and be a better person and stuff. So
As I'm sitting here now, I'm just thinking to myself, with the people listening, and I normally ask at the end of every interview, if it doesn't matter if it's an actor, director, musician, I always ask the same question: what advice do you give to people that want to get into acting or want to be a producer? But I think the best advice you've already given today, and that's how to overcome the darkness and try and put to bed stuff that you may have carried with you for years. And I'm hoping this documentary gets to be on a platform that can reach as many people as possible, because I've not seen it, but I can just sense that it's going to be something that will affect a lot of people and a lot of people can relate to. And if anyone
I
can take anything from it, I hope a lot more people are more open to discussing and not always keeping to themselves the issues they've carried around with them, because that can just be only damaging to the human.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And even when I get on here and I'm chatting with you, it's still a little scary and nervous to admit things and talk about my past and stuff that's happened. But again, right, when I do it, then you're like, wow, you receive it and you're like, hey, that's really inspiring. And so every time I share it and someone responds in a positive way, and it just reaffirms that that's the right thing to do. And every once in a while there's still negative social media or whatever, but as far as it's pretty much 99% positive and 1%
Yeah.
1% negative, right?
There's
And
always going to be trolls, there's always going to be
yeah,
dickheads, and they're never going to go away. But do you know what? They don't matter.
yeah. And then I will answer quickly as far as if anyone, with anything, whether you want to become an actor, a producer, a director, a musician, whether you want to be any occupation or anything that you want to do, what I've found after all these years is you do it for love. You do what you love, and then the money comes, right? Like you do what you everybody I believe is born with like a talent or something that they're meant to do. It's the challenge is risking and being vulnerable enough to follow your heart and to go for it.
Yeah.
um, though I've found that since I've started on this path of refining myself and redefining myself as an actor, or instead of as a criminal or an addict, it's like I've gotten so much support, and things have increasingly snowballed in a positive way. And so that's what I would encourage anyone to do is step by step, day by day, and just believe in yourself, because you can totally do it. You can.
I know you've had a life of many highs and many lows, but sitting here today, right now, and kind of analyzing everything and thinking about your future, I think you've got a big upwards coming your way again. I think the documentary is going to be fantastic for people out there, for you to see the response and the impact it has on people. And I'm really wishing you all the luck with it. I really hope it gets to be seen by thousands, because it's something that can hopefully change a lot of people's lives.
Thank you. Thank you. I believe so too. I really, I, I mean, as cheesy as it sounds, I feel like all of this has happened for a reason. And Lisa connecting me with me and writing to me in jail, and us starting the idea for this documentary, and then making it happen. I really look forward to seeing what happens, because and I believe that too. I think that yeah, I see I see great things for myself in the future, and it's great because one of my main goals for my own success is so that then I can continue to share my story and continue to give back and to anyone who needs it, because I've had a lot of support and care and love in my journey, and so I think that I mean it's great by having utilizing a public persona in a way that can affect people in an authentic way, and being real and sharing that can be really changing, and you can reach a lot of people, and I think that's super important.
And who knows, this could be the podcast that people go back to when they first announce that they're going to do the sequel to Flight of the Navigator.
All right, let's make it happen for sure.
It would be awesome. I really appreciate your time today. It's been easily my favorite episode I've done. I'm nearly up to 100 episodes, and I'm sitting here beaming. I can't wait to edit it. I can't wait to put it out there. It's an absolute pleasure to speak to you, and I didn't want to make it too much of a focus on the last few years, and it just naturally came into conversation. But I'm I think it's really important that it's come out and it's talked about right. And I think this is a big episode for me, and I'm really, really grateful for your time.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Really, I'm really glad too, and yeah, it is important, and it's so neat that the conversation just happens organically and goes where it needs to go, right?
That's it.
And that's what's important. So, you know.
So there it is. There's my interview with me and Joey Cramer. And as I said at the start of today's interview, and I did build it up quite a lot, the words I used was it's my favourite ever interview. And I still stick to that. When I edited it, I sat there with the world's biggest smile. I got emotional, and I mean it, there was a tear shed because the guy's gone through hell of a lot. To see him come out so positive on the other side is amazing. Where so many have failed and so many have not bounced back, Joey has, and I think it's absolutely awesome to see how he's turned his life around. I have nothing but respect for this guy, and I can't wait to see the success of the documentary that's coming out. For him to let his guard down and be so honest with me, I have so much respect for him. The interview was absolutely awesome to conduct from start to finish, and I can only thank you again and again, Joey, for being so open, so honest, and just so amazing as a guest. I hope you guys out there have enjoyed it as much as me. It's took 95 episodes for me to get an interview that I'm really, really proud of and really happy. I really, really wish this guy the best. And again, thank you to all the people that have listened to this episode and this interview. If you've had issues or you've got problems, speak up. Never keep this sort of stuff to yourself. And I know this is getting quite heavy for an episode from Mark and me, which is never normally that serious. But this is an issue where we've seen someone turn their whole life around. So it can be done, and reach out to those people that are close by, or family or loved ones if you're going through anything like this. In true typical Mark and Me fashion, I do want to tell you about my website. So I've got markandme.com. On there's my Twitter, my Facebook, my Instagram, and anyone that sends any comments or feedback about this episode with Joey, I will personally send them on to him. He will read every single bit of response that you send, and I know it will mean the absolute world for him to read these sort of reviews from you guys out there that have took the time to listen to this podcast. So please jump on markandme.com, email me, DM me, whatever way you want to do, and I'll pass these back on to Joey. Also out there, guys, I've got a Patreon page. This podcast is a one-man team. I edit, I do the interviews, I produce, I record, I conduct the interviews, I run all my social media. I don't get paid for it, and all the money that comes in through Patreon goes back into it. It supports the podcast and allows me to do more and more interviews across the country to get these things edited, published and hosted on certain sites so you guys can have as many episodes as I can do. So please, any support can go a long way. You can go on there and sign up for as little as £1. I make sure I reward everyone with prizes, and the prizes that I have this month coming up is my biggest month yet, and there's prizes there that money can't buy. I'm not going to reveal too much because they go in conjunction with the guests that I've coming up on the podcast, so I don't want to spoil anything. But this month is going to be very busy for Mark and me, and the amount of episodes I've got in the bag ready to edit and release is getting out of hand. So there's going to be loads of stuff coming your way in the very near future. Thank you again to everyone that's listened to this podcast today, and I really hope you've enjoyed it as much as me. Stay safe, and I'll be back soon. There's only one thing left to say. See you later, Navigator.
You see the way that tree bends? Does it inspire? Leaning out to catch the sun's rays, a lesson to be applied. Are you getting something out of this? Oh, can spend your time alone, redigesting past regrets. Or you can come to terms and realize you're the only one who can forgive yourself. Makes much more sense to live in the present tense. Have you ideas on how this life ends? Checked your hands and studied the lines. Have you the belief that the road ahead ascends or